Getting more from the supplies you already have is super important for crafting, and it's even better when you get a completely different look. Let's get crafting. Today we're going to use some Distress Oxides and this Spellbinders 3D embossing folder called Dimensional Diamonds, but we're not embossing, and this is super addictive. So any water reactive ink will work with this. I'm going to find the flatter side, which happens to be the cover, the one with the writing on it, for this technique. And I'm just going to do some ink swiping. Now, truth be told, I get a little carried away here because I end up doing this whole folder. If you've ever had a Spellbinders folder, you know that they're really large. I think they're about 6 by 9. And well, I do A2 size cards, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I way overdid this. But that's okay, because we're going to get as much use out of this as we possibly can. So all I've done is ink swipe my picked raspberry, prize ribbon, and wilted violet onto my cardstock. And I'm going to take a distress sprayer, but any mister will work. And I'm going to give this about 3 to 4 good spritzes of water. I am using watercolor cardstock here, and I'm just going to place it in the middle. Close up my my embossing panel, and give it a good firm rub. That's right, we're not embossing today. Surprise, surprise. But once I open it up, watch the reveal. I'm pulling prints from my embossing folder. How cool is that? Well, I told you I overdid it, and I definitely did. I'm just going to add some more water, and this time I'm going to turn the cardstock the other direction, and we're going to kind of get a second generation pull from this. Close up the embossing folder, give it a good firm rub, and let's check out what we've got here. Not as dark, but still absolutely worthwhile. Now I want to show you another way that we can use this folder. So I'm just going to spritz it off and use a hand towel to go ahead and get the rest of that ink off. But what if I went ahead and used the not so flat side? This would be the back of the Spellbinders folder. It's going to give us a completely different look from what we've already pulled, but it's still the same art supply. This time, to keep me from overdoing it, I've placed a piece of the cardstock there, so I know about how far down on the embossing folder I need to go with my ink. I'm using the exact same colors. Picked raspberry was first, prize ribbon is next, and I'm going to finish that up with some wilted violet. A quick spritz from my sprayer, and I'm going to go ahead and add my watercolor cardstock back to the embossing folder. I'm going to give it a good firm rub, and I am standing up for this technique just because I want to get firm pressure, but it's not necessary. And look at the completely different look we get. I got a trellis appearance, and the other one you definitely see the diamonds. Dust off those older embossing folders that don't have the three-dimensional look that we typically see today. This is an old Park Lane embossing folder with hearts, and I'm just going to do some ink swiping of just the wilted violet Distress Oxide ink. And I have to say that when it comes to using this technique, it's best suited to the older embossing folders. So I encourage you to dig through your stash and see what you may have lurking in a corner somewhere and dig it out, because something old can become something new when it's used in a new way. Now I realize that I did not get a good print from the bottom corner of this cardstock, but no worries, because I'm going to turn this into something completely unexpected. Give this a quick wipe, and away we go. Be sure to stick with me until the end, where I am going to show you just about all of these backgrounds turned into cards. Now, this is another Park Lane older embossing folder. And I think this one's like Greek key, I think it's what it's called. So I inked one side and now we're going to ink the other. This one I'm using Rustic Wilderness and Prize Ribbon, giving it a spray and laying down my watercolor cardstock. Now I happen to really like that one. But all your inks will easily wipe off your embossing folder, so no problems there. And here's some of the pulled prints. Let's cut them down and get some cards made. I have some pre-cut layers for my A2 card bases. I use Accent Opaque 100-pound cardstock for my bases, and the rest of the cardstock layers are 65-pound weight Recollections cardstock. Now I'm just cutting this one down because at the beginning I was thinking I was going to use the whole panel, and then, well, I changed my mind. Now I was looking at the blue, there's the whole panel, and I thought, let's do something different with this. I've decided to only use a portion of this panel, and I want it to kind of be on a diagonal. And after I did it, I realized I went about it a really long way, but nevertheless. I am using liquid glue. I prefer Barely Arts Precision Craft Glue, which is what I have here. And I have a cute little silicone topper. No more need for the silly little pin in there. I always hated that thing. It got rusty. So the silicone topper has been a game changer for me. Now I'm going to lay my Greek key design on top of my blue card layer, flip it over, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark that with a pencil so that I know where I need to put the glue. So far, so good. I've got my lines drawn out so I know exactly where to place my glue, and well, I make a pretty big mistake, and I left this in the video because I want you to see how easy it was for me to fix this and not to get hung up on the, oh, I made this huge mistake and there's nothing I can do, because there's always something you can do. And the something in this case is going to be pretty surprising. I don't cut straight generally, so I'm going to use my paper trimmer, and I'm really not measuring. In this paper trimmer, there is a wire guideline that helps you to line things up, and that's all I'm doing. I am absolutely not measuring to make sure it's absolutely perfectly level and even between the two sides. It didn't matter because no matter what, this really turns out super cute. Here's the mistake. I cut the blue layer too close and it doesn't meet up. Oh, by the way, here's a great tip. Make sure you take the top off of your glue if you want it to work properly. Anywho, okay, so now that I've got glue out, I'm going to go ahead and lay glue down just on the blue because that's all that's going to be on the front of this card. I will be lining up just the right-hand side, so I want the angle of the blue layer to meet up with the right side of the card. I am absolutely not worried about the left, with the exception of the fact that I put it down too far and I didn't cover up the corner. And I have to move it again because I'm not paying attention to that side. But that's the beauty of liquid glue, because you can readjust and you've got that wiggle time that you need. If you used a tape runner, you wouldn't have that opportunity. So after I get it glued down, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to cut off the remaining part of the Greek key design. I am using the Tim Holtz 9.5-inch long bladed shears. These things are fantastic. Nothing sticks to them. Okay, let's fix this up. I'm going to go back to my handy dandy trusty FISKARS paper trimmer. Remember I told you I really don't cut straight? So here's why. We're going to open up that cardstock and I'm going to line up the guide wire to the end of the blue layer that is short. And I'm just going to lop it off. It turns out it's 1/4 inch. No big deal. So my card is 4 inches by 5.5 instead of 4 1/4 by 5.5. Okay, using this scrapbook.com nested scalloped hearts, I'm going to go ahead and use a scrap piece of cardstock that I have folded in half, and I've taken the largest heart The left-hand side of the heart is just slightly off the cardstock. Whatever's not on the cardstock won't cut through, so that's going to leave me a hinge for my card. I'm just going to use some scrapbook.com mint tape, which is a low-tack tape, to hold down my die so it doesn't shift when I run it through my Spellbinders. Now I've run that through my die cutting machine and it resulted in a cute little shaped card. And I'm going to go ahead and layer up the next smallest size in the die set on the other paper. Now once again I kind of ran into a little problem, but there is no problem we cannot fix. They're all just happy little accidents. As you can see, the two cardstocks don't match in color. One is watercolor paper, one is heavy white cardstock. So I'm just going to use the Distress Oxide in Wilted Violet, and I'm going to use a very light hand on a blending brush, and I'm going to go ahead and blend that out so that the whole thing is purple. Now all I have to do is attach that to my little card. Now this card is actually going to end up being a mini card for a gift. And I'm just going to hole punch it and attach it with some ribbon, and it turns out so cute for this. Wait till you see it at the end. Using die cut sentiments to finish off your cards is a fast way to complete them. This has a die cut sunflower that I left in white. This one, this sweet little skunk celebrating a birthday, an anniversary, you name it. A happy birthday butterfly with a vellum butterfly from Sizzix. And finally, our cute little shaped card. Which one was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And before you go, I've picked out a couple of videos that I think you'll love. Until next time, I'll see you real soon.